Welcome to Millennial Chats. I'm Jerry.
I'm Kevin, and it's so great to be here.
This is
Welcome you
our
guys to the first podcast, the first of many podcasts.
many, yes. So before we talk about our friendship and how we got into this, let's talk a little bit about ourselves. So since you're the better looking one, I'll let you go first.
Well, thank you for understanding that and realizing that because so many people, they either don't understand that and or they don't realize that. I mean, my grandpa, the other day, he got cataract surgery on both eyes. And, one of my, lines is, it's in Russian. It's like, I'm good looking in Russian. That's like one of my go-to lines. So the first thing I said to him was, I'm like, Grandpa, now you understand why I always say I'm so good looking. So
But
I will tell you
tell
that, huh?
tell people about yourself. What makes you so charming?
What makes me so charming? That's we'd be here for days if I, told you that. But I'll tell you guys a bit about me. So I'm 24 years old. I live out in New York, Brooklyn, New York to be exact. Play the guitar. I'm really into music, movies, and I have a very, very politically incorrect sense of humor. So you guys are gonna learn a lot about that in the episodes to come. And I just have a very unique view on life with a very healthy balance of humor and seriousness. So I'm really excited for this. I really
Good.
am.
Well, I am Jerry, and I love long walks on the beach. Romantic. No, I'm kidding. I'm Jerry. I am 28, going to be 29 here in just about a couple weeks. I live in Erie, Pennsylvania, where the weather is cold one day and the weather is hot the next. Um, my favorite band is Bon Jovi, if no one knew that already. Um, I am a licensed funeral director as well, and that takes up a lot of my time. But yeah, I picked up a new hobby of playing guitar, and I think we'll just learn more about ourselves as we go along here.
Yeah, it's funny.
So,
You know,
so
you,
let's get into our friendships because you said you're from Brooklyn, I'm from Erie, so that's like 7 8 hours, and obviously we've met a couple times in person, but we talk almost every single
yeah,
day. And what brought us together was our favorite band, Bon Jovi. And we've been friends, I think, since 2019, but we got a lot closer when we met last year, March of 2020, when we went to go see David Bryan's musical.
mm,
And like I just said, we talk almost every single day, and we'll go on hours of talking on kind of like teenage girls.
I feel you.
uh,
Minus the big boobs, but
Yeah. But yeah, so and then last Friday we decided to start our own podcast. The reason I wanted to do a podcast is because during this pandemic, I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts, and it's interesting to learn and see what other people's point of views are in the world, in the same exact world that we live in. So it's nice to understand what other people's point of views are, and I want to start our own just to kind of talk about like our title of the podcast is Millennial Chats, what we see the world as. And we'll get into the whole millennial thing here in a second, but was there anything that you wanted to say about starting this podcast or anything?
I really think you hit the nail on the head, Jerry, in that sense, because the good thing about our friendship is that we are on the same page about, I would say, 95% of things, and the other 5%, it's whatever. Like me and you have never gotten into a disagreement. That's the cool part. Like there are some friends that I speak with almost every day. And I've never had a point where I'm like, okay, like I need to go. I'm done dealing with this guy. I've never had that. Honest to God, I haven't had that. Other people that I speak with almost on the daily basis, all the time. I can't tell you how many excuses I've made up. The only reason why I have to get off the phone with you is for three reasons. Number one, my phone is dying. Number two, I have to pee, and number three, I legitimately have to go.
That's all right. We
So
have to get off at some point.
exactly. Like you're one of the people I could talk to all day, and like there's never a dull moment where I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, what do we talk about now? What do we talk about now? So I think that's the great part of our friendship. I really do, is because I feel like I can talk to you about anything, and vice versa too.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're really close friends, and I think this podcast is going to show it. So to talk about what we're going to bring to the podcast, every week, we're going to try to release an episode a week, hopefully every Monday. And, we're going to talk about, a big subject every week. Today we're going to talk about what it's like being a millennial and the connotations with that, and the good and the bad. And then, we'll talk about in later weeks, we'll talk about friendship, music, movies, the news. We're going to have some good laughs. We're going to have some serious discussions about, especially with the news in the world, presidential debates, just a bunch of everything that's going on in the world, just as we see the world through our eyes. So it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to this. It's like the great unknown, if you will.
Yeah, people can listen to us talk for 45 minutes to an hour.
I
Maybe
know.
they'll get 20 minutes in and turn it off. That's okay. So let's get into the biggest discussion of the
Yeah, definitely.
first podcast is millennials. Now, I was born in 92, so millennials is defined, I think, from 1981 to 1996. So
Mhm.
you're right on the cusp
I know. I know.
of being, what's the next one?
Crazy.
Okay, I have a list here. So baby boomers was 1946 to 1964. Generation Jones 1955 to 1965, which that's kind of baby boomers and Generation Jones kind of intertwine. Then you have Generation X 65 to 80, Xennials 1977 to 1983. Generation Z is 1997 to now, and then Generation Alpha is 2010 to now. So I don't know why some of these intertwine, but anyway, so we both are millennials, obviously. You're right on the cusp, and
Mm.
I'm right in the middle almost of that. So yeah, and one of the things that I hate is the negative connotation that we get for being a millennial. Everyone acts like it's a bad thing, just like, we act like, not we personally, but like just we as millennials will act like the baby boomers are to blame for a lot of things, or the generations before us. I think as a generation thing, I think we all like to point fingers at people just to say that they're the reason why we're in financial distress now in America, or we just like to point fingers for blame. And I don't think it should be like that. I think it should be learning from that generation and then making the change. And I truly think that our generation and the Generation Z and the Generation Alphas and so forth, I think we're going to be the reason for change, because the world as we see it right now in 2021 is changing tremendously. There's so much that is changing right now. And I think we're the biggest force of that, especially with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and the equality thing, gender, and so forth.
Yeah, you made several interesting points. I think I don't think the pointing fingers is just at millennials. I think everybody just points fingers at anybody. Millennials to Generation Alpha, millennials to Generation Alpha is going to point fingers to the baby boomers. I just think the bigger problem is nobody can accept responsibility these days.
Yeah,
That's what I think the bigger problem is, because blame. A lot of times, blame is replacing the value of hard work.
yeah,
Because it's so
exactly.
easy to say, it's so easy instead of saying I fucked up to blame it on an external circumstance. It is so easy to do that.
Yeah, it's easier to point the finger at someone else than it is at yourself. And at the time that we're in now, it doesn't matter what generation you're from. What matters is that we all come together now and make a change, and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with the generations before us. A lot of people, like us millennials will say, like I said earlier, that they're to blame, but really that's not true. I don't want to speak negative about any generation,
Well,
because we don't like the negative connotations that come with being a millennial. And I don't think like the other generations like that either. Like I see like a lot of knocks to baby boomers, and I hate that term too, baby boomers. Like, I wonder how just because the reproduction was higher at that time. I don't
Yeah,
know where that name came
that's
from.
where it came from because basically, the men were out fighting World War II. They come back, they
Yeah.
get a house, they marry the girl that they've been, thinking about as they were, fighting the Nazis. And what do? The first thing they do is they go home, they go back home, they dance in the middle of Times Square, go home, do something that they've been wanting to do for like the 3 years they were gone, you know? And then lo and behold, 9 months later, little
Yeah,
Joey is born.
yeah, little Joey. Um,
Joey Keys.
but I think I want to talk, about millennials here. I think our generation is a big force in social media in a good way, in a bad way, but mostly in a good way. A lot of the most important things that I think millennials bring to the table now is that we have a high belief in value, especially in political engagements. Like we all have strong beliefs, and that's good. Because when I was a little kid and I growing up, I always thought it was like an old person thing to be so involved with politics. And as I became a teenager, young adult, I saw more and more of my friends and people a few years older than me really political and have a lot of values. And so I think that's important. And I think we stand up for what we believe in. We have a lot of self confidence, and like I said earlier, I think we're in the start. I think we're the start of changed. I think the world is going to become a very different place from here on out. And there's going to be a whole list that we'll go through. There's an interesting article that I want to talk about, and it's on mentalfloss.com. You can Google millennials, mentalfloss.com, and there's a whole list of good and bad of millennials, but I want to go through that list.
Yeah,
But
so let me just add to what you were saying because you made a lot of really good points. Um, while millennials are the kind of like the seed of change, if you will.
yeah,
The problem is, for example, let's take politics. They're way too involved in politics to the point where they're basing their entire identity on the politics that they believe. And I just think there is so much more to life than politics because, just in my opinion, politics is the biggest fugazi on the planet. It really is because these people, they don't care about you. They will tell you whatever they want, whatever you want to hear to get elected. And then what do when they get elected? They forget about you. They're just in it for themselves to grease their own pockets. So basically, like look at the Trump Hillary election, even Trump Biden election. I can't tell you how many times in like those 6 years from when Trump first announced he was running to when he left the White House earlier this year, where I've seen on Facebook, if you support Trump, unfriend me right now.
yeah, that's excessive.
So that's what I mean. I think people are just basing too much of their identity on the politics and other social justice causes when there's just so much more to life than that, and there's just so much more to people than that.
Yeah, I agree with the whole unfriendly if you support this. Like obviously, you support Trump and I support Biden.
Mhm.
Earlier you mentioned about how people get too involved. Before seeing my son start, my son is 12 years old now, and probably 2 elections ago, I didn't really care about politics, and I said the same thing that they don't care about us and blah blah blah. But as my son's getting older and I see that he's becoming a teenager and soon being a young adult, is every vote does matter. And I want to vote for the right person. So when my son becomes an adult, the world is a better place. And this will be a debate for another um, podcast. But I would fear what the world would be if Trump was still president. right now.
In what way?
Well, we'll talk. Well, that'll be for another podcast. But so the reason that I got so like I always kept my political beliefs private.
Mm.
I never posted on social media. I did my voting and that was it. But I thought the last election was so uh, important that I wanted to. And it's just my voice, and one of billion. But if everybody says my vote matters and my voice matters, those numbers add up. And so I wanted to help influence, even if it's just one person, help influence to vote for what they believe in. And, I believe what Biden has to offer, and I think it'll be a better world for my son.
And that's your prerogative. And, I hope you're right. I was a little shocked when, Biden won the election first. At first, I didn't believe it because that's what the president was saying. But, as as soon as I saw, for example, the Supreme Court just laughed Trump out, I was just like, okay, like this is real. And, I didn't go and cry about it in the streets. I didn't go to DC and like storm the Capitol or anything like that. Sometimes, you lose, sometimes your candidate loses an election, it's totally okay.
Yeah,
We're Americans first. I mean, do I think Biden's going to do a good job? Absolutely not. But I don't care ultimately because what I care more about is the people. I mean, my life isn't any more different right now from the perspective of whether Trump was in office. So it really doesn't affect me per se.
right. So, but my whole point, just to go back the millennial, which is our topic today, was that I think it is important to be heavily involved with, maybe heavily is not the right word, but involved with the politics right now. But like you said, when people are posting, "Hey, I'm gonna unfriend you if you vote for Trump," like that's excessive, and that's like you and I, we're such good friends, and we both know you like Trump, I like Biden and stuff. But that's just our political beliefs.
Dude, I don't care
But to
about your
unfriend each other, at the end of the day, whether you're Biden, Trump, Republican, Democrat, whatever, at the end of the day, we have to come together, and that's what influences change in the world and makes the world a better place.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like it's like if we disagree on something, I'm like, okay, cool. What do you think about this Bon Jovi song? Like that's literally our transition. It's just like there's zero emotion to it. It's like who the fuck cares ultimately?
Exactly. But let's get back to our
Yes, yes.
topic. So do you want to, we could go down the list.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So there's some good facts and stuff. I just, like I said, this is such a great article. And for people listening that want to read this,
Is
go
there a
to
way we can share it? If we can maybe share it.
Okay.
Go through
That's a
it.
good idea. Okay.
What's it
So
called?
it's on mental floss. And it's 31 amazing facts about millennials. And it was posted back in 19 and updated last year. But let me see here.
Let me share my screen. Okay.
Okay. So some big key points, I think. Let me get back to some facts. So let me,
This website is so buggy. Okay, there we go.
I don't want to go through each key point, but just ones that I really like. Oh, so like number 5, go to number 5.
Okay. Millennials are voracious readers.
So I thought this was interesting. It was that there's pretty much saying that the millennials would prefer a book over an ebook, which is interesting because we're very tech savvy. We are, like me in the funeral business, like I work on ways to, live stream our services and also promote our business through social media. And I think a lot of our generation does that where they work. That's a topic in the later discussion. But so this one was interesting that you would think that the tech savvy millennials would prefer to read on an ebook rather than an actual book. But here in this article, it says that they would prefer a book over an ebook.
Well, I mean, I was in Barnes and Noble today with my friend, and a lot of the people there, were younger people. There's like just like something cool about going to a bookstore, picking up a book off the shelf, and reading it like that. I mean, I have a bookshelf myself. I mean, there's always, even when it comes to, I think it's important to own the media of your favorite things. So, for example, that could be, CDs, DVDs, books, because coming back from cancel culture, you own it. You never have to worry about something getting taken off of the ebook server. Um, you never have to worry about your favorite show getting taken off of Netflix. Even like they canceled Disney put a canceled Peter Pan because it was deemed racist, so they took it off all the children's servers off of Peter Pan, off of Disney Plus. My brain's like totally fried right now. They literally took it off of Disney Plus because it was deemed racist, which is completely idiotic.
And that would be a good.
Dr. Seuss, they canceled Dr. Seuss.
And I have so much to say about that, but I'd rather save it for another podcast because I think we could have a really good discussion on that.
Mm.
But so I thought this was, so let me ask you, what would you prefer, a book or an ebook?
Honestly, I'm gonna throw you a curveball, an audiobook.
Okay, I see. I like audiobooks too, especially when I'm on a road trip.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the reason I would prefer a book over an ebook was because, I think this is one of the like I said, I think we're all tech savvy and we bring a lot to social media, but there's also a negative side to that too, because we can become very addicted to our phones and always have our screen or have our eyes on the screen. And so I think it's good to kind of just tuck your phone away and get out an old book and just not have your eyes strained on that screen for so long, just have it focus on a book.
Yeah, I mean, I can't read on a phone. I hate watching anything on my phone other than a YouTube video. Like, I can't watch a movie on my phone. I need like a big screen. I'm a spoiled millennial brat.
Yeah, me too. Um, Go to number 8. 8 is very interesting too. Millennials have retirement on their mind. So
Oh, that's so true.
a lot of people like to say that millennials were very what's what I'm looking for. We're very stupid with our money and we blow it, and it may be for some people, but not for for me, for example, is I try to look out for my family and my future. So, like things important that are like life insurance and retirement. I'm 28 and I have those things to look out for me and my family in the future. And so I thought this was interesting, is that a Bank of America report found that 82% of millennials contribute to their employer-sponsored 401k plan, which is a high rate than either their Generation X or baby boomer counterparts.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And this is interesting because I'm like the exact opposite. I mean, I'm like I'm so reckless with my money. Like you don't even like I think you understand, Jerry. Because
I
I
do.
told you about some of my purchases. And you're just
But
like,
you know what? There's nothing wrong with that because you're what, 23, right?
yeah,
24. There, you're single, you have no kids, you don't have,
I
you're
know.
not married. You should. You're at that point where we're almost the same age, but we're also in a different standpoints. Like you're able to blow your money on whatever, and you don't really have anyone to worry about. Me, I have a fiance to worry about, I have a son to worry about, a house, all that stuff. And so I think you grow into that. I think once you start having other people depend on you, that's when you start saying, okay, well, I got to budget this, I got to budget that, I got to do life insurance, I got to do, like when I was 23, life insurance and retirement was like the last thing I was even thinking about. It's like, this is a waste of money, you know?
But what if you don't want people to depend on you? That's the other thing.
What's that?
Because that's where I'm at right now. Like I don't want anybody to depend on me at all. Like I can barely look after myself at all. It's
Like, what?
nobody listens to me, not even me.
Yeah, like you're growing as an adult and an individual, and you're still finding who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. If you find any other parts that you want to talk about, go ahead. I'm just kind of skipping through my favorite ones.
I'm like scrolling through this right now.
So we're talking about a lot of positive things, but I also want to talk about a couple of the negative things about millennials. Is that we rely, and I don't think it's negative on millennials per se. I think it's more. This is number 10, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I think many millennials rely on their parents for financial assistance. That's number 10. So it says there was a report that 7 out of 10 adults between the ages of 18 and 34 still rely on their parents for some kind of financial support. Um, but you know what? You can't blame millennials for that because, like, the old rule of thumb was, okay, you turn 18, you're an adult, you're out, you're trying to support yourself. Well, nowadays, that's not even realistic because first off, whether you go to college and you get a degree, can you even do anything with that degree? And the rate of unemployment now is so high and there's not many job openings for people. Like you graduate from college and you have this degree, all these employers, they want you to have experience. Well, how the hell are you supposed to get experience if you can't get a job to get experience,
Well, there's
um,
several things to this, Jerry. There's several things to this. Number one, let's start from the top. So number one, the actual degree. So a lot of millennials are just going to college and just getting a degree in whatever because they see college as one big party. And then on top of that, they were told this lie that any degree is a good degree. Follow your heart, and the money will follow. All these cliches, and next thing you know, they're majoring in something dumb like French lesbian poetry from the 1700s. And to your shock, there's no jobs that that rely on that.
yeah.
And it's unfortunate because these people took on a crap ton of debt, and then they're working in Starbucks making $13 an hour.
Mhm.
So it's so that's where that comes from. Um, that's why if you're going to college, you gotta get something in the STEM related fields: science, technology, engineering, and math, and either medicine.
Yeah. Um, I had a point to what you just said a minute ago, but it slipped my mind. But yeah, so I thought number 10 was interesting,
It is
because
interesting, and
you know
that's the one thing I do not like about millennials.
you can't blame them for relying on their parents because they're just they're just like you're doing good. You're 23, you're living on your own and stuff like that. But there's some people who aren't able to do that, because school doesn't teach you how to manage your money, and they don't teach you. Like this one's saying right here about credit card debt. Student loan debt, credit card debt play a role,
Hmm.
and it's a
Yeah,
big
like
part.
how are you supposed to get on your life with all this amount of debt, if especially if you got a useless degree? How are you supposed to do that?
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. The next one is actually pretty good too if you want to go to 11. Unless you
Oh
had
yeah,
a
I agree with this. Millennials are very interested in self improvement. Oh
yeah,
yeah, definitely. 94% of millennials made personal improvement related New Year's resolutions. I mean, yeah, I love self improvement. I love guys like Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. All great books, and I think it is very important to grow as a person. And one of the things I'm doing in my personal life is I'm actually starting a business where I help people with that.
yeah. And I'm glad you say that too. The very last part was because you want to help people. That's another thing. That's another great thing about millennials. Before I want to get back to this number 11, but
Mm.
on a side note, is that as millennials, we're very caring as people. Especially when it comes to animals and people in need. And like you said, you want to help people. And I think that's one of a positive thing in our generation is that we're very, very helpful to people.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And but however, I think it's important to help yourself before you can help anybody else.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
It's like, when you go on a plane, and I never listen to the flight crew as they make these announcements, but they always say, oh,
No.
they're like, oh, if you, if the air pressure drops and the masks fall down, what do? You don't put it on the person next to you. You put it on yourself first so you can help your child later.
Yep, exactly. Yep, I completely agree with you. Um, so with this whole self-improvement thing, I think we're all always looking for, we're also very hard on ourselves, I think.
Oh yeah.
At least I can speak for myself, is like if I do one wrong thing, whether it's at work or personal or just whatever, I'm so hard on myself. But that can also be a good thing too, because that makes you want to better yourself and do better next time. You know, and you can't learn if you don't make mistakes.
Exactly. However, look, you can't expect it to be perfect. Something's always going to come up, and perfect is just a standard that doesn't exist. I mean, I granted, I am the exception to the rule, but other than that, perfect doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you've technically given up before you started.
Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that. Was there anything you wanted to say on this one before we go to the?
I think I'm good. I think we really
I'll look on my phone which ones. If you see one that you want to talk about, go ahead.
all right, so I like this one. Millennials are well represented in Congress, or at least making great strides in that direction. That's something I agree with. So, and I think that's a good thing because the Congress is filled with all these establishment cronies that are working in cahoots with each other, like Lindsey Graham on the right, Mitch McConnell, another guy who I really love. Um, you know, Nancy Pelosi, they're all in cahoots with each other. It's all a giant ruse, as I was saying. And, I think we need young people like AOC, although I may not agree with her politics. She's not afraid to tell Nancy Pelosi to go fuck herself. And I respect that.
Um,
So I
one
think
one
we need people like that. We need to vote the establishment out.
Yeah, but one thing I wanted to say about this is that it's good that there's millennials that want to have a higher voice in Congress. And for example, we have this here in Erie, we have this girl who is probably only 22, 23 years old, and she is running for mayor. Now, as much as I appreciate that and respect it, I also think that she's way too young to go into a mayor position. I think it's good to kind of leave those positions. It's like a 22-year-old becoming president. I think you, me, and people even in the 30s need to experience life and kind of get life on track before you can become a mayor or president. So, but it's still good for them to have other seats in the political field,
Oh,
just
yeah.
not high up. Like this 23-year-old who just graduated college wants to become mayor.
Yeah. Look, your brain isn't even fully developed until you're 25 or 26.
Mhm.
So it's, I wouldn't feel comfortable letting someone, man or woman, who's 23 or 24 balance the books of my tax dollars. I would not feel comfortable with that at
And
all.
the, and the reason that I say I'm uncomfortable with it is because there's a lot of heavy, heavy, heavy decisions that need to be made. And if you don't have the experience in the political field, you shouldn't be making those heavy decisions. And like you said, with budgeting and finances and stuff, I mean, I'm 20, turning 29, and I'm just kind of gotten better with how to manage, savings and money and all that. And it takes time to learn that. So, um, the next one I want to talk about, number 16,
Mm,
about we're always constantly stressed out. That is the absolute truth, my friend.
really?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm always stressed, when it comes to, because I feel like like us as 20-year-olds, I think that there's a lot of weight on our shoulders because we're trying to make our spot in the world. We're trying to make ourselves notice, especially when it comes to like work. Whether you're just trying to do the best that you can and work and do good and be noticed and do things that you wouldn't necessarily do until you get more and more into your career. We're trying to balance a lot on our shoulders. And I think we're so self-conscious about that stuff. And not only just work stuff, but just trying to make a dent in the world and trying to get life figured out, trying to save enough money to buy a car or get a mortgage or worry, manage your finances and stuff like that, let alone starting a family. So although, by the time you get in your 30s and your 40s, all that stuff is figured out, hopefully figured out. And it's kind of just smooth sailing from there. So I think in your 20s, I think you're still trying to get life figured out, and that causes a lot of stress.
I disagree with you. On one hand, you're right. But for me, I'm really not that stressed out about it. It's look, I have a roof over my head. I got shoes on my feet, food in my belly.
Yeah.
You know, if whatever happens, there's nothing that can be thrown at me that I can't handle.
Right.
So if something needs to happen, it's going to sort itself out. So there's no need to stress over it.
Yeah. I can be with you on that. I'm always worried about what's next. What am I going to do
Welcome it.
to,
Welcome. What's next? There's a reason why chapters end. That's a good thing.
yeah, every new beginning, some beginnings end.
Yep.
So if you want, we can keep going down the list here.
Yeah, I'm liking this. Millennials represent a massive portion of the workforce. That is very true.
That's an important one too, because if you, I think millennials help shape. Okay, for example, me as a funeral director, where I'm at, there's 3 of us licensed, and the 2 other guys who are great. They're in their 30s, late 30s, and so I'm the only 20-year-old there. And so when it comes to technology and stuff, I'm kind of innovating that and trying to keep up with the times. Like especially with like COVID and stuff. When we weren't able to have actual funerals. We were only allowed to have 10 people come in for a funeral, and it was pretty much just the immediate family. Or the husband or wife of the deceased was in a nursing home and couldn't get out. And so we had to start doing live streaming of these services and making ways to do Zoom and Skype and Facebook Live and all these other. And so it's interesting that these millennials, there's a big number of them in the workforce, and they're a huge part of what they're doing is making the business better, through innovative ideas, technology, and so forth.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Since millennials, like it would make sense that they're doing all these innovations, which is kind of like why, like they're very dedicated to their work. Sometimes they're a little too dedicated. It kind of flows well into the next point.
Yeah. And then that kind of goes back to the stress thing too, because sometimes I feel like I'm a little too dedicated. You have to know where your limit is. And I think that's what causes stress sometimes, is being a little too dedicated on something that you don't need to be so dedicated on.
Yeah, the thing is, like, your boss doesn't care about you. Like if you find someone that will do your work cheaper, they'll get rid of you in a
Yeah.
heartbeat. Like they do not value loyalty at all. It sucks, but it's true, which is why, millennials don't want to work a 9 to 5. I think a lot of millennials kind of realize this, and they just don't want to work a 9 to 5. I know that's personally me. Like I'm actually working on, starting my own business, like the coaching business, so I don't have to work the 9 to 5.
Yeah. I don't like the 9 to 5.
Anyone.
Number 20 is kind of, I kind of find that one hard to believe because I love
Yeah,
going.
bullshit.
I love yeah. So obviously we have to say it now. Millennials aren't big on vacations. In a 2016 survey, 48% of millennial employees said they wanted their boss to view them as a work martyr and would feel guilty for using pay time off. I don't know about you, buddy, but I do not feel guilty.
Oh, no,
I'll take it.
it's in my contract. It's in my contract. I'm giving you months' notice. Plan around it, buddy. You can't find anybody. That ain't my problem.
Yeah.
It's in my contract. I can take off when I want.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have a vacation. Like there's some people that I know that say, "Oh, I don't like taking days off, or I don't like going on vacation. I feel like I'm ripping the company off." I'm like, "What?"
The company
Like,
doesn't care.
yeah, like
They
you
will
you've got
fire
to take
you.
time
If
off.
they will literally fire you if they can find a machine to replace you. They do not care about you.
And so 21, but then it says, "But millennials love to travel."
No, millennials love to talk about traveling. They don't love to travel. They like to talk about traveling. I think the statistic is like over like I think like 30 or 40% of Americans don't even own passports. Like I'm actually curious. Hold on. 42 only 42% of the total population of the United States owned a valid passport. That
Wow,
is insane.
that is. And I thought the number would have been a lot higher. But like you said a little bit ago, that they like the idea of it's like people who go out to nice restaurants or just a restaurant in general, and they get their plate, and what they do is they take a picture of their food and post it to Instagram before they actually eat it.
Yeah, I
Like
don't care. I don't care about
and,
food.
and so I think people do the same thing when they're going on vacation. They'll like take a picture of like all the trees at Hawaii or something, or like when I'm on vacation, I just try to put my phone away and just
Oh yeah.
disconnect from the world.
Oh
But
yeah, like nobody's gonna want to be friends with you because you went to Hawaii or the Dominican Republic or Dubai.
I mean, like if I'm on vacation, I'll post a few cool pictures. So there's nothing wrong with that. I know people that will like say I went rock climbing. Well, they only went rock climbing to post on social media, then they're done after they post the picture.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like, oh, harness is on. Okay, done.
Exactly. And they don't even go rock climbing. I had a buddy back in college, and he went on vacation, and he was showing me pictures, and he had the harness on and stuff like that. And like that's like was one of his Instagram posts. I was like, "Well, how was rock climbing? How high did you get?" And blah blah blah. And he goes, "Oh, I didn't go. I just put the stuff on, and took a picture." Well, then why did you post it? Because I don't know, but
There's this one Instagram influencer who I was listening to. He was a friend of mine, and he was telling us, he's like, yeah, like you guys can go to the to like these like exquisite locations in the city, get yourself a drink, and then use the geotag, and then people are gonna think you're going there all the time.
yeah,
It's just like nobody, like the type of people that would be interested in hanging out with you because you go to like these exquisite places. They're not people that you want in your life.
yeah. Um, the next one is interesting too. About a quarter of all millennials are vegetarian or vegan.
I hate vegans so much.
No, me too. But it is interesting how like I was saying earlier about how we're very caring people. I think this kind of goes into it with like being meat, saving the animals, and that's a whole debate there. But just saving the animals, and then also watching what you put in your body. Because like I said about growing up too. Like when I was younger, I didn't care about what I put in my body, and I would eat junk food every day, and I was overweight. And then the last 3 years, as I got older, I lost all my weight. I live an active life, and I eat healthy and stuff. So I just thought this one was interesting too, because millennials are very conscious about what they eat, and we're coming up with all these diets now, which I don't really follow, like the keto diet and all that, and
Paleo,
you
whole
know
30.
yeah, I never followed into all those. I live in the theory of just eat healthy, run, you're good.
Like if it was made by the earth naturally, then you're
Yeah.
fine. Like that means you can eat meat, you
Yeah.
can eat, rice, it's a healthy grain,
Hmm.
vegetables, fruits,
Yeah.
and that's it.
I respect the people that are vegan and stuff, but I don't know about you, buddy, but I could not live without steak or burgers or
Have you ever been to one of those like all you can eat rodizio places?
Are they good?
Okay, so I went to one today. It was like $70. In the city, they're very expensive. I went with my buddy. So basically, you sit down and they come around with all these skewers. Like, let me show you this. Hold on. But like they have like really good, like something like this, but it's like beef, and you can eat as much as you want your heart, until your heart gives in. I'll usually eat like a crap ton of steaks, like maybe like 3 or 4 big steaks. That's how much steak I'll eat. Like I'll drink a lot of water. I won't eat anything before I go. Um, Hold on, let me pull up the menu. And yeah, like I won't drink any soda. I won't drink any alcohol. It's just meat. I'll take you. I'll take you there next time you're in the city.
Sounds good. Um, 24 kind of contradicts everything.
Mm.
20,
Millennials have a lot of anxiety. That's very true. I have a lot of anxiety. And if I'm being totally honest, like that's how like I'll crack that's why I crack a lot of jokes a lot. Because it's kind of like a nervous tick, if you will.
mhm.
Because like everyone processes anxiety differently. Some people
Yeah,
are quiet, some people can't shut up, kind of like me.
yeah.
Um, and I just think, everybody has anxiety, and there's really,
Oh, yeah.
you just kind of got to treat it like a pebble in your shoe, and just something
Yeah,
that's annoying, you just got to overcome.
yeah.
No,
Go ahead.
like nothing bad's going to happen to you if you step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and the thing is too is I think our brains kind of sometimes will overthink and over worry, and the sad part about technology too is like if it's like the whole like my neck hurts thing, and so you Google what's wrong, and then all of a sudden you're worried you have cancer and you have 6 months to live. I think our minds just overthink, over worry, and then we get into this rabbit hole of anxiety.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like if you look up any symptom on WebMD, like it's gonna tell
yeah,
you.
like I said, your neck hurts, you go on Google, and then next thing you know, you think you have 2 months to live.
Exactly, exactly. Also, social media too kind of plays into our anxiety because everybody does a good job, at portraying themselves as being Mr. Perfect. Me, I don't have to do that at all. Like everybody knows I'm Mr. Perfect. But yeah, like everybody is worried about their own self-image. That's actually the biggest reason why like I got off Instagram for a while, because like I would post, I would have my own ways of, posting different things. So for example, I would post selfies of me with celebrities, and then I realized no, like nobody's gonna be friends with me just because I met John Bon Jovi. Like
Yeah,
nobody
exactly.
cares.
Yeah,
So
like you and I, we like to see each other, like those kind of pictures. But like, it's like when we go to a Bon Jovi show and we're excited for each other, and we'll talk about the set list, we'll talk about the show, whatever. But when we come home and our friends or colleagues or whoever ask, "Hey, how was the show?" All they want to hear is it was good. They don't want to hear what songs got played or what happened, because like I'll go on a whole tirade of how great it was. And so like your points, no one cares that you met John Bon Jovi, but you and I, we would be so happy for each other and love the picture and so forth.
okay, so the next one is millennials are perfectionists. 100% true.
Mhm.
You know, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying. Perfect is just unreasonable. Like that's just an impossible standard. Like, I didn't want to share this, but I've been really procrastinating on starting a YouTube channel. And after we get off this, I'm gonna record the first video, and I'm doing it on my phone, not on a professional camera, just because like it's just important to start. Just it's better to do something than to do nothing. So
Exactly. Yeah.
there's never going to be the perfect circumstance. There's never going to be, the perfect set of events where things are magically going to align. Like this is not Hollywood.
Mhm.
Um, so you just gotta start. You just gotta do something.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. You won't get anywhere if you don't try. A lot of people are afraid to try because they're afraid of failure. It's like asking a girl out or boy, and you're worried that you're going to get turned down. Well, you don't know that. You could be nervous about asking a girl out, and you might be surprised she might actually say yes. But if you don't try, that's a lost opportunity. you
Even if
know?
she does, even if she says no, who cares? Like,
Yeah,
I've reached a point in my dating life where like it's just like if she says no, I don't care. Like
yeah.
I really don't care. Like, I'm in kind of a position where I could do more for her than, she could do for me, if that
Mm,
makes sense. Like
mhm.
I like for example, I cook my own meals. I have a nice apartment. I live by myself. Like what and I have a good group of friends I could introduce her to. I play the guitar. I do a lot of cool things with my life. I go to a lot of concerts. I go out places. I go to really cool restaurants. So look, if someone doesn't see the value in that, then maybe that person isn't a good fit for me.
Yeah, exactly. And then and just like you said, not a good fit. And that, we have to open up a lot of doors. Number 27, I think that's like my favorite one I really want to talk about.
Oh yeah.
Millennials love the internet. And it's good and it's bad. The biggest thing, we were just talking about how we people will take pictures of their food and post it on Instagram just to show what they're eating, like anybody cares. But what is so bad is we refer how we look. Like I think a lot of people on social media try to look like a certain person that they're not in real
Like
life.
trying to be a star.
Like they'll act like they're like this. What's the word I'm looking for?
Like this celebrity.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. Like for example, like people care about how many followers they have or how many Facebook friends. Like, why is that a big deal? Like, I could care less if I had 10 followers versus whatever thousands. Either way, I don't care. And it's amazing how we, as a society, we care so much about our social media image. How that reflects on our life. And it's like like in the Bon Jovi fandom. Obviously we know so many fans all around the world, and there's some fans that don't like each other, but I don't know why fans harp on that idea. Like I don't care if someone that in a different country doesn't like me. And it's amazing that we as people jump through hoops to get to be liked and earn likes. Like I'll see people bragging about how many likes they got or how many followers they have. Like, the end of the day, that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. I mean,
You know,
you know,
what does that do for you?
exactly, dude. Like number one, it's human nature
Mhm.
to want people to accept you. It's totally normal.
Yeah,
The other thing too is, from a dating perspective, no one's ever wanted to be with me just because of the amount of followers I had. Like that's never happened.
like, oh my gosh, Kevin, you got 2,000 followers. Oh my gosh.
Let me get on my knees and show you how much I appreciate that. Like that's never happened.
No, it's crazy. But on the other end too, internet is also a great thing too, because it's a good way for, especially during this pandemic. Like I've thought about this a lot. Like, can you imagine what this pandemic would have been like if there was no internet or social media, and you're being quarantined in your house or just going from work to home, and you're not having that social interaction? Like, it's been so great to be able to still communicate with family and friends from all over the world and still have that social bond. Because I think that's what kind of really pulled us through this pandemic, was having those social bonds with people and seeing how this person's doing or making sure this person's okay, and so forth.
Yeah, I mean that's how we became friends was during this pandemic, just by having hour-long conversations.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
how we became friends.
Yeah, and the land of Google too. There's something that I want to know, and we even used it during this podcast where we were trying to see
Mm.
about how many people have passports. It's amazing that you can have any kind of information in seconds in the palm of your hands. That's great. There's just to kind of conclude this whole part here about the internet, is that internet is good, internet is bad. But I think internet is also a wonderful thing too. Like going to a restaurant, you want to learn, you want to see the reviews and so forth. Like when I go through, if I hire a company to do work around my house or I take my car somewhere, just whatever, I always look at the reviews and see how that business is before I go with them.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I'm the same way.
So I can't think of anything else that we as millennials use or use the internet for. Can you?
Porn.
Well, that's another discussion. What's the next one? Millennials thought they're smart. That's kind of internet thing too.
Yeah.
I am guilty of getting addicted to my phone sometimes, like trying to pull myself away and just spend time with my friends and family. It's funny because like my old friends, like we would always talk about, hey, let's get together and hang out and do something. So we'd end up going to each other's houses or going out to eat. But I was guilty of it. My friends were guilty of it. We'd all sit together and we'd be on our phones.
The truth is, I wish we grew up in the 80s. I wish I grew up in the 80s. I think you probably wish the same thing, simply because, that was like the best time to be alive. You had the best movies, you had the best music. You had, like people actually, would get together on the weekends, go outside and just, play
Yeah.
sports and just do something and let their minds run wild. Growing up for me, everyone was on their PlayStations. Everyone was at home. There was no really neighborhood camaraderie, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would have been really cool to grow up in the 80s and not, like after school, you meet up at the local diner and have a slice of pizza and a Coke with your friends
Mhm.
and stuff. I think those would have been really cool days. Like I see like kids who are in elementary school having iPhones and stuff. I'm like, what do they need an iPhone for? And the parents are like, well, they need to get a hold of us. Okay, well, yeah, but there's a thing called track phones where you don't have any kind of internet access. And so I think that's bad. I don't know what generation they fought, Generation Z, Generation Alpha. They're growing up with having phones in elementary school and they don't really need a cell phone.
That's just too much, like all they need is like one bad kid in the school just to look up boobs on the phone
Yeah.
and that's it. Childhood over.
Yeah.
I
And
think your childhood is over and your innocence is over the second you view a pair of boobs on the internet for the first time. That's when like it shatters like
yeah.
glass.
Because by the time you get, your preteens, you're curious to see what boobs look like, or you even just find the humor and just searching it, and you and your friends just laugh your, tails off. But back to my main point is I worry where technology is going to go when we have kids in the first grade having iPhones and the
That's
kind
too
of access that they have because of it. So
yeah, I agree with you. It's too much.
yeah.
Um, Seattle's becoming a millennial hotspot, and China too.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know. I mean, nothing against those places, but I don't see myself
I don't
rushing
want to go to Seattle. I mean, maybe to a Bon Jovi concert.
there. So this is the last one here. We'll soon be outnumbered, which
I mean,
is
as
a
long
fun
as
fact.
people keep having sex, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but overall, like I said, I thought this article had a lot of key points of what I wanted to talk about, with millennials and stuff, and a big thing too is I don't want to put any other generation down because I think we all learn from each other.
Yeah, we all bring something unique to the table.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
that's really what I think. And I may not agree with it. Like there's definitely a generation gap. I have little sisters who are 10 and 12 years old younger than me, and they're sitting on their phones playing on TikTok all day, and I'm just like, okay, you do you, Bubba.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that point up because that's what else I was going to mention too about these kids having cell phones is that their world is now on their phones. Like my son doesn't even like to go out and play with friends. He just likes to be in front of the PlayStation or on his phone and like there is a world in front of you. And I'm guilty of it too, when I just want to sit and just play on my phone and do nothing. It can be bad for you. Like there's a whole world in front of you you should experience. And so long story short, I think these kids should um, go out and play and be on their bikes and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I yeah, just like treat you should like treat your childhood as an episode of Stranger Things, you know?
yeah, exactly. Well, one fun thing that we'll do with, unless you had anything else to say about millennials before we continue.
I think we've talked enough about millennials.
So let's do, so in the future, for people that are still listening, we're going to do an advice thing where, so if you want to message us and ask for advice on something, we won't give your name if you don't want us to. Or if you have a question you want to ask, feel free to do that. You can message us at, I want to double check, make sure I got our right email. Our email is Millennial Chats 2021 at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter. Our Twitter is Millennial Chats, MILLENNIAL Chats. And you can also find us at Instagram, millennial_chats. And you can send us a message on there or email, whatever. So what we're going to do today, though, is Kevin and I, we're going to ask each other 5 questions and before we wrap up here. So we'll take turns asking each other a question just to get to know each other on the podcast for people listening. Favorite drink?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola. Okay. Favorite movie? A Walk
Goodfellas.
to Remember, right?
Oh, I've actually never seen that.
You've never seen A Walk to Remember?
Yeah.
Dude, it's a classic. I love it.
What is it?
What?
A chick flick? No.
Yeah.
The only
Okay.
one I'll watch is like The Notebook or Marley and Me.
Okay, it's just as good as those movies. So it's about
Yeah.
this girl, about 2 high school students. So there's a guy, Shane, and he's a bad boy, and he's in trouble in school and stuff. So he has to do all these extracurricular activities. And so there's this girl, and I forget her name in the movie. I think it's Jamie, and she has well, I won't spoil that for in a second, but she's like this good girl, virgin, Christian girl, and she's like involved all these. She's very nerdy like, and no guy would be interested in her. And so at first they don't get along, and like he thinks she's a total dweeb and all that, and but eventually they start to fall in love with each other, and what happens is that they find out that she has terminal cancer,
Oh shit.
and then she eventually dies, and but she changes the person that he is into a better, and he ends up being a doctor at the end of the movie, and it's a very heartwarming movie. It'll make you cry.
I feel like crying right now, actually.
No, man, it's honestly a good movie. Good
Yeah.
movie.
Okay. All right, let me ask you some. Okay, favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, probably Reese's peanut butter cup.
I'm a cookies and cream kind of guy.
I like cookies and cream or cookie dough, hot fudge.
Yeah, hot fudge.
Mm-hmm. Favorite song?
Right now, Same Mistake by James Blunt.
Okay. Mine would be You Want to Make a Memory by Bon Jovi.
Great song.
Okay, let's ask one final good question.
Yeah, I'll ask you one.
Okay.
Favorite Bon Jovi shirt?
Do you know how many Bon Jovi shirts I actually have?
A lot. I only have like 1 or 2.
Really? How
Yeah.
many do you think I have?
Like 200?
I have 104, I think, something like that.
Damn.
Yeah, but I think my favorite one is probably the Crush shirt, because that was my very first shirt when I was a kid. Obviously, I can't wear it, but it was from the first tour I went to.
Yeah, but you should have it like displayed.
Yeah, I thought about shadow boxing it and stuff, but that's later down the road. Okay, last question for you before we wrap up. What is your biggest life goal right now?
You know, I just want to make enough money so I can, travel, and just follow Bon Jovi on tour and not have to worry about money. That's the dream.
That is the dream. Well, buddy, and everyone that's listening, thank you for tuning in today and listening to us. We're We're going to be putting out an episode every Monday. You can catch us on Apple, YouTube. Kevin, you know the
Spotify, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, SmoundCloud, anywhere you can find podcasts.
just Google Millennial Chats with Jerry and Kevin. You'll find it.
Yes, that's what matters. All right, guys, it's been
All
real.
right.
We'll see you guys next week. Peace.